Good morning, everyone, and afternoon for everyone who is joining from Europe. So welcome to today's webinar from Maarga Systems. The topic that we're discussing today is replacing legacy document management platforms with Office 365. And as part of this, we really are going to focus on one of the primary systems from IBM Quickr, and also along with that other legacy systems like domino-based file system or Microsoft Network Drive and things like that. So that's a broader topic that we are taking up today. Before we go ahead, let me introduce myself. I'm Chirag Barhate. I am Director for Customer Success at Maarga, and what I primarily do is I work with all our clients across the globe to understand their pain points and to come up with technology solutions that fit their use case. So the entire webinar and the entire migration piece that Maarga does around with our clients is a similar exercise where we try to understand a specific scenario and then provide technology solutions for the same. So this is a outcome of those exercises. I have around a decade of experience in collaboration software and enterprise collaboration along with IBM as well as with Maarga Systems. Along with me today we have Balaji, so I'll let Balaji introduce himself.
Thanks, Chirag. Hi everyone, good morning. And as Chirag mentioned, my name is Balaji and I'm a solution architect with Maarga Systems. And I have about 7 years of experience in working for IBM set of collaboration products, basically other collaboration set of solutions as well. And I'm also responsible for building solutions on collaboration products, also the migration set of solutions. So that's a quick introduction about me. Over to you, Chirag.
Thanks, Balaji. So before we go ahead, I think let's have a quick introduction to Maarga. We have been around for over a decade now, servicing clients across US, Europe, Asia Pacific. We do have our office presence in US as well as in India, and we have been IBM technology partner for a long time. We also are Microsoft partners now, and what we really do are we are a boutique consulting firm who specializes on collaboration technologies, messaging, collaboration, workflows, digitalization in organization. So anything to do with large enterprise software that help the organization achieve their collaboration goals. That's what we specialize in. With that quick introduction, let's jump into today's agenda. Like I briefly touched upon, we will start off with Quickr to Office 365, some of the reasons why such a migration is essential or we should look into it, why we choose Office 365 as a target, things like that. Then we will touch upon the other aspects of file systems like domino file repository or network storage in Windows and how we can take them to Office 365 as well. And towards the end, we will cover broadly adoption of social software or adoption of enterprise software, which is a topic very dear to us. It's an aspect that is crucial in today's world, but is often ignored. So we will talk more about it towards the end of the session. So let's jump into IBM Quickr and what it stands for, what it is used for in today's world. We know, and I think most of the attendees in today's sessions are familiar with Quickr or are using Quickr, and we know that it is primarily used for document management and collaboration around documents. But apart from that, it is also used heavily for replacing existing business processes or bringing them onto a software platform, and that has been widely used in a lot of enterprises and a lot of customers that we see these days. But unfortunately, as we know, IBM has announced the end of support for IBM Quickr in September 2016. They did extend the underlying domino support to 2021, but what it essentially still means is that if you are running a critical business process on IBM Quickr, you are running into the risk of having a system that is out of support, and which is obviously not a good thing. The reason we are still working on this topic and talking about this today is because organizations that are using Quickr are using it extensively and very deeply integrated with their processes, and hence even if IBM went out of support in September 2016, organizations still take a lot of time, energy, and effort to find an appropriate target and move quicker. So we still see a lot of our customers, we have helped them migrate out of Quickr, but we still see a lot of them still dealing with Quickr and trying to figure out where they would take this platform as a rightful target. So with that, I would like to take a pause and run the first poll with the help of Scott so that we can understand the feedback from today's attendees, and it will help us keep our focus on the right conversation in this webinar. So Scott, can you run the first poll, please?
Okay, our first poll is, which document management system are you using at your enterprise? So select all that apply, and of course we didn't list everything here, but we want to just kind of understand what you're currently using in terms of Quickr, Domino repository, or just network drives. All right, so we have over half of us have voted. Thank you very much. Give us about 3 more seconds here, and we'll get some more input here, and I'll share the results in just a second. All right, I'm going to share the results. So 50% of the attendees are using Quickr and repository, and 88% of course using network drives, and 25% has something other. So network drives, of course, always there, but there is a lot of Quickr and IBM Domino repository out there as well. All right, back to you, Chirag.
Great, thanks, Scott. That's really insightful. So that gives us an idea of what audience we are looking at. So I'll try to keep it generic across these 3 source platforms that we discussed: Quickr, Domino repositories, as well as network drives, and we'll try to see underlying what goes into the back end of doing these things, which Balaji would cover later in the session. To quickly discuss what are the alternative systems that a lot of clients across the globe are looking for when they are looking at a alternative for Quickr. You see these 4 featuring prominently. There are others, but these are probably the top 4 that are considered in our experience. Salesforce Chatter, at least in Confluence, obviously, but interestingly, IBM always pushes customers to look at IBM Connections, which is their offering going forward for enterprise collaboration, and there is really a case that they're building to help you move to IBM Connections. The catch there is that IBM is also talking a lot about connections on the cloud, on smart cloud, and at the moment there is no straightforward way of taking a Quickr into a smart cloud, but we have in the past dealt with a couple of customers who had this scenario, and we have worked a similar migration methodology and a toolkit to have that migration done. So that's one of the credible platforms, but I think the topic and the most credible platform that we're talking here is Office 365, and we'll get in the reasons of that. So that's probably the most opted platform that we have seen in the recent past, and it has reasons to it. If you see this screen, there are statistics on how Office 365 is doing today in the market, and you would clearly see that it is not only growing its base, but it is also finding a lot of uptake in organizations that are moving from legacy environment, a different technology stack, to Microsoft. And there are various reasons for this, so we'll not go into that. But Quickr definitely has slipped down a lot in the list of preferred platforms for enterprise social solutions. But Office 365 is the place where you can safely bet on migrating your Quickr content. And the reason is that the reason we discuss this is because you are in a situation, if you are a customer running Quickr, you are today in a situation where you have to migrate it to a platform, different platform, and it is important to analyze that the platform that you're choosing is going to be around, what is going to be the roadmap that the technology provider has for this product, what is the market uptake, because that will ensure that you're taking the right decision by investing in this platform and investing in the effort to migrate. Otherwise, you don't want to be in a situation where you migrate to a platform of which you're unsure of its roadmap in the future. So I think IBM Connections and Office 365 remain the two credible platforms. Moving to the next slide, uh, what are the key features that customers are using Quickr for? We all know that it is used for team collaboration, and a lot of it has to do with the tighter amount of security control that Quickr provides. It's not just at the top level, but you can do a more granular level of control on security, which has obviously been a strength of the underlying Domino platform for a decade or more now, and Quickr carries that forward. So that becomes important. Other aspect is interaction with external entities from the organization, like your contractors, your suppliers, your vendors, partners. That has been a strong use case for Quickr because it is easy to make it into a platform with which you can control and share information with outsiders. So if I recall what kind of customer situations we have dealt with, one of our healthcare domain customers has been using Quickr as a platform for their entire R&D research, so the R&D team. And what they do is each of the product that comes out of R&D becomes a place in Quickr, and then all the collaboration happens in that place. So that's a very niche area for them, very important area for them, and it has been ongoing for a long time. So obviously migration becomes a big concern with the data consistency and the reliability with which people would be able to continue with working with the new platform. Another example is of a European customer that we have dealt with in the past, who were primarily focusing on Quickr to work with external entities, vendors, partners, suppliers, like I said. So for them, this is one platform in the organization which you would go to if you have to interact with anyone outside the organization. And in that case also, it becomes important that we understand these use cases and then try to carry them forward into the target platform when we are looking at a migration scenario. So as I said, it's not a simple job to migrate a big environment, not just technically, but because of the extent of use that users have, extent of uh, interfaces that it has to your organization's processes. And that is why it is important to follow a strong methodology. So Balaji would go through the methodology that we follow in detail, and he will also go through the nitty-gritty stuff, technically how we are achieving this migration. So over to you, Balaji.
Thanks, Chirag. So with that introduction, let's jump deep into the migration methodology that we have to discuss. So for people that are familiar with the migration process, the terms extract, transform, and load is not relatively new. But we have made unique differences in each of these areas, which is what we're going to see in this particular webinar. Let me start with the first phase, which is plan. So planning is the phase where we identify what are the data that is existing in your Quickr or the Domino repository that makes sense to be migrated to the target platform. All the data that we have may not be relevant up to this date, and there are some decisions that needs to be taken up, and due to some policy constraints and also the subscriptions and other things, people may want to reduce the amount of load that they want to migrate into Office 365. So all those decisions on the key aspects will be taken in the planning phase, and extensive amount of reports gets generated in this particular phase, which helps us to decide on those action points. And then the input, whatever reports and whatever key decision points that we make in this particular phase will be fed as the input for the next phase, which is extract. So in this extract, we have a sophisticated extract routine that can either handle each place individually or by batch. And this extract process is fluid enough that you can customize and configure and extract only the places that you need to export and migrate into the target platform. And there is a word of caution here that this extract process will not extract all the workflows that you may have designed in Quickr, but if you want to keep the workflows intact, we have solutions for that, and that needs to be handled separately as the content is moved into Office 365. And then the transform. Transform is another key aspect of any migration, particularly for the reasons that the source and the destination platforms do not normally support the same sort of metadata and other features, and some of the stuff that are permissible in Quickr may not be allowed in the target platform. So all those things get configured in the transform phase. And for one instance, like this is something that we see pretty common with all the customers that we have worked with, which is the data that may have been uploaded long back by an employee who is no longer part of the company. Who gets to own those documents and artifacts that have gone into Quickr to do any modifications or any changes, add a new version to the existing documents on the SharePoint or Office 365 after it gets migrated. So those kind of challenges, and how do we handle the external memberships and the artifacts that have been uploaded. So with one of the key customers that we work with, they had a peculiar scenario where they wanted to not recreate any of the external members that was existing in Quickr, and they wanted to handle all the ownerships of the documents and artifacts that were uploaded by them to the site owner. So those kinds of transformations can also be handled, and there can be scenarios where contents from two different places may have to go to one particular site, because it makes all the sense to have something under one site instead of having it in two different sites. And then we move on to the load process. Once all the transformation rules are defined, the next thing to do is load, which is pretty straightforward with our load routine, which will take care of all the processes that needs to be done. And in the end, it will also give you a detailed report of data quality and data validation. Both of them are again crucial, and we have talked extensively about it, and we have also blogged about it on our website. You can also check those things out. And then the next process is adoption. So once we move everything from Quickr to Office 365, for users, this platform is relatively new. And if the vision of this product is not set properly, then there could be some mishaps that may happen. And we have slides further down to cover this topic in depth, and Chirag would take it up. And then it's time for another poll, Scott.
Okay, we'll run a second poll. So if you have migrated or migrating, what are your challenges? And select all that apply. So was it hard to extract the data? The workflows couldn't be migrated? Data validation was an issue? Or data quality was an issue? All right, over half of us have voted. That's great. Appreciate your input. Let's get a couple more votes in, and then we'll share the results. Okay, so of those responding, 33% said it was hard to extract data, 33% said workflows wouldn't migrate for them, 22% had issues with data validation, and 11% data quality.
That's quite interesting, because when we covered the same topic the last time, I think we had issues around data validation and data quality highlighted mostly. But then it's interesting to see that hard to extract data and no workflows can be migrated. Like it ranks very similar, but we will cover aspects and all of that. And moving on, we have prerequisites for the toolkit that we have. So to extract data out of Quickr or Domino, we only need very minimal changes to be done on the source environment, which is Quickr, where we want the DI/IOP port to be opened up, and then we just need the Quickr admin credentials to extract the data. The way we extract the data is not really through API, and that's the reason why we need all of these things. We have Domino native interfaces using which we will extract all the data out of Quickr. And in the transformation phase, it's again fluid enough. It can be as simple as a CSV configuration, or we can also use TDI to prepare the member mappings and then supply it to the script. And then the load process is again pretty straightforward. We need a PowerShell support. So our load script is completely based on PowerShell. So any mission that would run this toolkit must have the PowerShell version 4 installed. And then moving on, we have the mapping of IBM Quickr to Office 365. So as we see, and as Chirag also explained earlier, so Quickr is a platform that can be mapped to Office 365 of SharePoint Online, because it also has more or less same features, and it qualifies as the best document management solution. So as we see here, a place in Quickr gets mapped to a SharePoint site, and a subroom gets mapped to the SharePoint subsite, and so on, the files, folders, and then the permission gets transferred as well, along with other metadata like ownerships, the date in which it was uploaded, and so on. The pages again gets transformed as pages or lists, and then the left menu can be recreated as navigation or links, and then the members gets mapped with the transformation, and then the appropriate members that should get access in the target SharePoint site gets all the access that they need. And then the next slide talks about, in simple blocks, how the extract routine executes and what does it exactly do. On the left, we have IBM Quickr or Domino file repository. DIOP port open up, and then the extract routine takes over. It starts the extract process. It starts to extract all the data out of the Domino file repository or the Quickr place to the file system as flat files. So here, any data that gets extracted out of Quickr also has an XML file accompanied with it that would map the source and the destination of where it needs to go and other metadata and so on. So all those artifacts are exported as flat files on the file system. So it may happen that sometimes, due to some other data corruption or some other issues in the network, so there may be some of the data that may be left out, which is why we also have data validation both at the source as well as at the target. So the logs and reports we collect at this stage will provide extensive information of how much of volume is getting exported and what volume should have been extracted out of it. So that gives us a clear comparison, and also the actions that are taken place here. For example, if a place is extracted, what are all the files and folders that needs to be handled, and how much of metadata was actually exported. So all of it is computed, and then the data validation percentage is presented, so that we can be confident enough that none of the data was missed out when we extracted the data out of the Domino file repository or a Quickr place. And then comes the transform and the load process, and we talked about the transformation process and how fluid it is and the kind of changes that we can do and the way that we have kept it simple enough and things like that. And here is where our load routine takes over. So as we already saw, all of the data that have been extracted are all extracted into the file system. We have also seen that one of our customers, like instead of presenting an archival strategy where we have to dump all these files to a different place, they have also preferred to have some of the places right there in the file system as it was extracted. Because when the files and artifacts are extracted out of Quickr, it is extracted in its own, in the same structure as it is available in Quickr. So any folder from the top level to the bottommost, all of it is maintained when it is extracted to the file system. And in this particular load process, the input for the load process is again the directory on which the place artifacts were exported. So once the path is fed, the load routine takes over. Again, we have detailed logs and reports at this stage to take care of the data validation and the data quality. And the load process puts all of those things into the SharePoint sites or sub-sites as we prefer and according to the structure of the Quickr place and so on. So again, the data validation is computed at this stage, And here we would get a clear picture as to what was extracted and what was actually loaded into the SharePoint online site. And there may be differences in terms of, so the data validation percentage would give us a granular view of even the metadata that should have gone into Office 365. If it was missed, even that would reflect in the report. So our reports and logs are that granular. And moving on, our next slide talks about one of the problems that came out of the poll that we had. So what do we do about the network drives? So this presentation is about three things as we saw earlier. So it's about Quickr, it's about the domino data file repository, and also the network drive. And what we saw earlier with the blocks and the mapping applies to both the Quickr places as well as the domino file repositories. And this particular scenario talks about how network drive maps to OneDrive. So a typical network share gets assigned either to a person or to a project. So we have seen scenarios where a network drive is also used by a group of people, right? So if it was mapped to a person, it makes all the sense to map that to map all the data into that person's OneDrive in Office 365. And if it is mapped to a project where a group of people would contribute content into that particular folder, and they would obviously want to retain the ownership if it is moved to another target platform, it would be mapped, it would be uploaded to a SharePoint site with all the access and metadata intact. And then the folders, files, and metadata gets transferred as we just discussed. And this slide shows it simple enough. And the next slide shows you in blocks of how the migration from network drive is handled. So as we saw, there is no extract process here because all the files are already laid out on the file system. The key is the transformation aspect, like which ones needs to be mapped to which profile in Office 365 is another key. And for that, all the inputs are decided in the mapping file. It is a CSV file where we can say which OneDrive needs to be mapped to who in Office 365, and if more than one network drive needs to be mapped to a particular person's profile or a SharePoint document library. So as we see here, in the network drive migration, in the OneDrive, we have migration, we have two stages. One is transform and then the load. In the transform phase, we can configure to avoid files of a particular name pattern. In example scenarios, like you may even have your SQL logs stored to a particular network storage. You're an SQL administrator. Or it could also happen that all the finance materials are dumped into a particular folder of your network drive. And you wouldn't obviously want to move that to a cloud-based solution. So you can choose whether these files of a particular pattern should be migrated or not, whether the files that belong to a particular date, particular set of dates, between two different time frames, should that be migrated or not. And the rest of the three things are pretty standard. It makes no sense to migrate files of 0 KB. And again, that applies to hidden files and the system files as well. And in the load phase, like as we already discussed, so multiple network drives can be mapped to a single OneDrive in the target, and the network drives that are belonging to a particular group or a project can be created as a SharePoint site document library, so all the people would have access with the necessary privileges. So moving on, the interface. So the Maarga migration toolkit. So how does it look? So this is how the tool looks, and it is a web application plus a set of scripts and packages that needs to be loaded installed on a migration server. And as you see here, we have dashboard, extract, transform, load, report, and settings options. So we'll go through what each of the interfaces has. So the first one is dashboard. So dashboards are always important to know at what stage we are in during a typical migration. How are we doing? Whether the migration happens as per the plan. This dashboard was really fine-tuned from inputs that we have received from our customers, like when we perform migration for them. So the ad hoc reports that we had to share whenever it was requested, and then it became a commonality to ask these set of reports, and we figured out that we can integrate all of them and present it in the toolkit itself. So the dashboard talks about the number of places that we have planned for migration, and how have we done today, and compare that with the last 7 days that we have been doing migration, and the project's progress so far. How have we been doing in terms of extraction, and how have we been doing in terms of load, and whether the bandwidth is really sufficient, or does it limit us in to complete the project on time as it was scheduled. Those things can be easily figured out looking at this dashboard. And then the extract. So the extracting data out of a Quickr place happens at the click of a button. And to differentiate, so we have the list of places that are available in your Quickr environment listed in this particular interface. And when you choose to extract a particular place, we differentiate it by making it bold, so that we know that any administrator who is looking at this particular interface knows that it has already been extracted out. And all the artifacts that are extracted get stored in the file system, and we have the sizes of it, and when it was extracted, and so on. So during the planning phase, one of the critical things that we spoke about is the volume of the Quickr data. The volume of the Quickr data allows us to plan the configuration of the migration server that we need to prepare, because all of the data goes into that, and then it is loaded into Office 365. So the intermediate platform is extremely important. And then the transformation. So here we see a simple member mapping scenario where we define the IDs of Quickr on the left-hand side and the corresponding IDs of Office 365 on the right-hand side. So in this particular stage is where we can choose to define, like, the ownerships can be reassigned to a different person, and so on, and all the other source and destination differences that we spoke about. All of those things can be handled at this particular stage. And the configuration is normally done in a CSV file, but then when we configure the part of the CSV file in the settings, the content of the CSV file is loaded in the platform interface. So we can do all the inline changes that we need to do. And then comes the load process. So load is again done from an interface, and the differentiation is again done here. Whether a place has been exported into Office 365 or not, it's clearly identified by whether a place is in bold font or differently. The places that are extracted into the local file system are only available in this interface. So there is no confusion here that a place, if it has not been extracted, it doesn't appear here. So that's one of the reasons why the list looks comparatively small. And then reports. So the stuff that we saw in the dashboard, so some of our customers also prefer to have a similar report and also an extensive customized version of report according to their preference delivered to stakeholders' email IDs. So we have configured a scheduler in this particular toolkit that prefers detailed report as per the status on a particular day, and then sends that report out to a list of stakeholders and keeps the administrators informed about the success or failure of the report that was sent out. And these are the key components of our toolkit, right? So extracting the places along with its hierarchy, the pages, files, page attachments, comments, and any other metadata, and also loading the files, folders, and pages in its own structure along with the metadata without missing any of the key data that has to go into that, and leaving out all the other system configurations, and also gives users a privilege of to choose or not to upload a particular set of files. All of those things are handled in our toolkit. And then we have greatly improved the error logging capability from the feedbacks that we have seen by using this tool with our customers. Like the scenario differs from one customer to the other, but then the inputs that we have gathered from all of the migration has helped us to fine-tune the error logging capability greatly, which is one of the key reasons why we can say that we can achieve the maximum data integrity with our toolkit, because anything that is missed out is captured as part of the data validation, and we can always go and fix that. We can run ad hoc scripts if at all anything may miss out because of certain issues or the resource unavailability and so on. So we can guaranteedly say that none of it is left behind. None of the data is left behind on Quickr or on the file system after it was extracted, and all the data that makes sense to go into Quickr would. So the challenges to a successful migration. So the first one is data quality. So any data that is extracted out of Quickr, when it is loaded into Office 365, first of all, the data has to be usable. If the data is not usable, then the migration isn't worth it at all. So the data that was loaded into Office 365, it should also have the appropriate metadata it should have as it was having in the source system, be it the last modified date or be it the ownership and all other things. So we have seen instances of using other tools where these issues have popped up, and that really remained as a feedback for us to make our own corrections. And the data transformation specification. So we talked much about it. And our understanding from using this tool multiple times with our customers and also by using other tools from other competitors helped us to refine this particular thing. And we have kept this configuration simple enough, like we don't have to worry about setting properties in different files and so on. So it can be just one single file, like a single source of truth for any transformation that you have to do. And then the data validation process. So a file, as it is after it is extracted, it has to go back into Office 365 and SharePoint Online. So as it is pushed into Office 365, like we are talking about huge amount of data. Like we have seen data of 900 GB, like close to a terabyte, and also an environment that had a little more than that. It's close to like 1.3 terabytes or so. So when we are handling such humongous amount of data, this data validation plays a really crucial role. Like even if the data validation is going to be like around 85 or 90%, it means that we have missed a lot of data. So this is extremely sensitive, and we have made sure that all the data that was extracted will be ported back into Office 365, and any of it, if it may even miss, it is perfectly logged, and the administrators know what happened where at which point of time, so they can always go back and fix it, which is one of the rare instances. And how our methodology stands out. So when we started this presentation, we said that for anybody who would have handled migration, the terms extract, transform, and load would be pretty familiar. But then our approach is having its unique differences. So that's where, like, it is not a typical lift and shift approach. Remember, our transformation plays the key role here at this particular stage, where the data can be transformed into in any ways that we want. The destinations can be changed, and the ownerships can be changed, and so on. And it involves very minimal configuration to the source system. The only change that we have to do is enabling DIOP in the case of Quickr. Like it doesn't need an extensive level of changes. It doesn't need you to install anything on the Quickr server apart from the toolkit for which we would have the migration server, and agile data transform specifications. It's simple enough. It's easy to do it, and it's not in multiple files, single source of truth, and we end this process with adoption, and of which we are going to talk in length in slides that are coming forward, and it's time for our third poll.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So the last poll is, how do you think users can be benefited the most in this migration? Is it A, and this is a single select, so helping users use Office 365 or helping them in governance policies, or is the main benefit customization of Office 365 for your business needs? So we've got a few people still a little bit shy about using a mouse. Go ahead and pick up that mouse and click on one of these buttons for us. So we're over 50% voted now. That's great. This is going to be interesting. We already have a clear leader on this particular question. All right, 2 more seconds for some final votes here. All right, I'm going to share the results. So 44% say that customization of Office 365 for your business needs is 44%. Oh, and the last few votes kind of brought them back up. So helping users use Office 365 is also 44%, and then 11% in governance policies. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott.
That's perfect. Yeah. Over to you, Chirag. So next is the Migrate adoption and the other things, like the poll is in line to that. Over to you, Chirag.
Sure. Thanks, Balaji. And I think I hope we had a quick overview of what we have done as part of the toolkit. So you can ask your questions and we will address them towards the end of the session, but do put them into the chat window. At this point, we have an interesting offer for the webinar participants who are with us today. 5 of the first registrants can register for a free assessment of their Quickr migration. And by assessment, what we mean is that we would spend an hour of time with you, and we will provide you with 2 specific data inputs. One is a comprehensive migration checklist, which is a derivation of our experience with all the migrations that we have done in the past with our customers and what has helped. This would set you up for all your planning for migration. And second is a custom script or IP that comes from Maarga, and that's a Quickr data profiling script which allows you to derive insightful information about the content in your Quickr. And if you are a person or a group who is responsible for Quickr migration in your organization, then I think these 2 things will set you up to either put up a case to your management for the migration, or to be able to effectively plan and move forward with your migration as to what should be migrated, what should be dropped, what should be considered first, what should be considered later. So that's the kind of thing that we are trying to provide to the first 5 registrants. The QR code is on the slide. You can also click on the registration link in the chat window, which my colleague would share in some time. So please go ahead, be the early bird and register. We have restricted to 5 registrants considering the vast number of attendees today, but do go ahead and put in your request.
Okay, Chirag, I've added, for everyone in the audience, I've added that link to the GoToWebinar chat window. So if you click on that link, you can register in their form for that. So that, again, this is an in-webinar offer only.
Super. Thanks, Scott. So while people are registering, let me quickly move on to the last section of today's webinar, which is around the post-migration challenges as well as experiences. And the first thing which follows up from the poll results clearly is the usability challenges with the target platform. And we saw people saying that understanding of the platform as well as customization of the platform. And we agree with these 2 challenges. These are the biggest set of challenges that an IT team would face whenever they're going through a migration, because your job is not to give them a one-to-one mapping of a product or a feature, because that's what we spend most of our time doing, due diligence of whether this platform is right, whether it has X feature versus Y feature. But in end of the day, it is the end users who have to use and continue to use that platform. And unless that happens, you have not really done a successful migration. So that definitely is a challenge. And then knowledge of the platform. Let me give a quick example of what this means. Office 365 in itself is a beast in terms of the kind of functionality and kind of options that it provides you. As compared to Quickr, which had a specific use case, it subsumes Quickr's use case in Office 365. If I take document sharing as an example, and I list the different options, In Office 365, you can either have Office 365 groups to share information. You can have Microsoft Teams, which is more of a Slack equivalent, or you can have a SharePoint site and subsite structure with documents in it. Or you can even have a OneDrive. And with so many options, with a new person who is new to the platform, it is definitely going to be a rough journey for them to be able to continue to work in the same way that they used to previously. And that's where adoption of the software becomes crucial. This is the biggest challenge with any sort of migration, because if we talk about adoption, this is a broader topic. We have a more defined framework which helps organizations to adopt enterprise software and social software. But what we have done is we have taken a bit small slice of that whole methodology, whole framework, and tried to provide that as part of this migration exercise. Because what we understand is that having your users go and be as productive as they were on the previous platform is never easy. You would have people who would not be happy with the platform. People will always resist change. They would say, this is not working for me. Why am I being forced to use this when I was fine with the previous platform? But if you have to do a migration, you have to get over these challenges and make the users comfortable with the target platform. And it's not a one-day job. It's a more gradual exercise. We do it over the entire period of the migration, right, starting right even before we start doing the migration itself, creating the awareness, sharing the information, conducting enablement workshops. These are some of the levers that we use in this phase, where someone who is an expert on the target platform comes in and helps you out and hands hold you with understanding the target platform. Now, why is this important? If I take any large enterprise example which has an IT department which is responsible for driving a lot of things, and there is a larger user base which actually uses these platforms, IT is stuck in a place where they are responsible for rolling out the technology, and then they either have to rely on corporate communication or someone to do the internal marketing, because that's what this is. This is internally selling this to your end user and hoping that they will use it and they will continue to use it, because only then you'll be able to justify the whole migration as well as the investment in the target. So that is where having a consistent hand-holding experience, something like an expertise booth where we have a time allocated where an expert comes in and answers all your doubts and is available to answer your doubts, is something that has worked extremely well in situations where we are dealing with non-tech workforce, for example. Then one-on-one sessions, lunch and learn is a more personal, intimate experience where you are in presence of the key users who are using this platform and helping them be the driving force for adopting this platform. So this whole area is bundled up. That's why we say that we are not providing, or we are not doing a product here. We are doing a solution around the whole migration, and that solution also includes adoption, because without that it would always be an incomplete migration. It will only be a data dump moving from A to B. What other elements help us in understanding this migration is the dashboards from the migration toolkit, as well as the usage dashboards on the target platform, which help us understand what has been migrated, how it has been migrated, and how are your users using it. So these are some of the things that are add-on to the standard migration ETL, but in our view is extremely important. So this is something that we try to bundle with every exercise, every customer engagement that we do. So with that, I think we are coming to the end of the content that we had for today's session. We have the details where you can reach out to us, drop in a mail or contact. And before we open up for questions, I would quickly like to summarize 2 or 3 points which should be kept in mind when we are doing this migration. The first is that Quickr is, if you are being properly using Quickr in your large enterprise, it's not a small environment. It, in all probability, it is also ingrained into some of the organization's processes. So it's not going to be a click of a button migration. It needs a phased approach. And what we have observed is that that's the best. Cutover migration creates a lot of problems which you would be better off avoiding. So in our experience, having a phased migration of this platform, understanding what content goes first, what goes later, understanding the uptake of the users. All of this is extremely important when you are dealing with such a migration. And second thing, like Balaji touched upon, is that not everything gets migrated. So even though Office 365 is a larger, is a superset in terms of features, there are things like workflows, for example, which will not be migrated as is to Office 365. Of course, there are tools which will migrate a part of it, but then you would have to invest the effort to rebuild those workflows using the Office 365 native features. And there are a good set of toolkits available, even third-party solutions available, which will make this job as easy as it used to be in Quickr. But these are some of the aspects that have to be kept in mind. So with that, I would like to close our session and would like to have a more open discussion and discuss some of the questions that might have come up. So over to you, Scott.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we do have a couple questions lined up, and so the first one, obviously, people are interested in, if they have Quickr, they're interested in the pricing of your migration toolkit.
Great. So I won't be able to give the exact pricing in this session, but obviously we can, if you can drop us a note, we can share you exact details of the different pricing options that we have and what you can choose from. But I would like to talk about the pricing model quickly, which is, this is not we don't do Quickr migration or this kind of migration every single day, or you don't do it repeatedly. You'd probably do it once for an environment or maybe for a couple of. So what we do is, we are not here to give you a tool and ask you to go ahead and run and do the migration. We are here to give a solution. So what it means is, we have a small toolkit, which is a proprietary thing that we have developed, which we use, our guys use. We come in, we do the migration for you using the toolkit. We customize it in whatever way is needed for that particular instance, and we ensure that we achieve all the transformation objectives as well. So that's a more involved effort rather than a toolkit that you buy off the shelf and try to click a button and migrate. So that's where it's not just a product that you buy a license, but it is more of a solution, and it will help you to do that specific migration that you're looking for.
Okay, perfect. And we mentioned earlier that there are other options to migrate Quickr. You know, how are those options handled?
Yeah, so I think the methodology which we've shared, I think the base or the construct of the migration remains the same. 70 to 80% of the toolkit also remains the same, but in those cases, in general, in any complicated scenario, we have to tweak around 20% of the toolkit to fit the case. So if I take IBM Connections, for example, if I'm taking IBM Quickr and taking into IBM Connections, IBM provides one option, which is taking it to FileNet, and there's a toolkit available, but FileNet is only available on premise and is a different set of product that works with IBM Connection. What we ended up doing is, we use the same set of toolkit and the same set of processes, and we were able to push in the data into IBM Connections, whether it is on premise or on the cloud, and create the data equivalent. Obviously, things like workflows don't go because there is no equivalent of workflows in Connections, but that is where you have to get creative and think of other alternatives to merge. So that's one thing. Second is, like I said, Quickr was even used for external collaboration. In IBM Connections, if you go to that as a target platform, you don't today have a capability to invite external. There is not invite module available which you can quickly roll out and people can register. So that's where we ended up creating a user lifecycle management or user registration module, which goes along with the migration toolkit, and it migrates Quickr as well as allows you the capability to then invite externals and manage the life cycle of that user, either to deactivate them or activate them. So that's how it has to be handled in each of these different scenarios.
Okay, so as a follow-up question to that, does the toolkit only work for Quickr to Office 365 in the cloud?
Okay, so I don't think I understand the question completely as to what other options you're looking for.
No, so the question is does the Maarga toolkit only work for Quickr to Office 365 migrations?
The answer is no. This is more of a migration toolkit, and it works in various scenarios. I cited two of them. One is Quickr to Office 365. Second is Quickr to Connections. The third is Connections to Office 365. And fourth one, which we are actually doing a project today, which is ongoing, is moving from SharePoint to IBM Connections. So, and all of these at the moment use the same toolkit. We even have an option where we are dealing with another legacy system called Prisma which is very rarely used globally, but we do have customers working with that system. And we are using the same methodology to migrate Prisma DMS to Office 365.
Okay, perfect. And is there any specific advice you would want to share with someone or a company that is considering a Connections to Office 365 migration?
Okay. So
besides use Maarga systems and your toolkit. I mean,
obviously
I could answer that one, but obviously I guess there's some other advice they might be looking for, a little wisdom here.
Yes. So I think one of the key things to look for when you're going from Connections to Office 365 per se is, again, like I said, the target platform is very straightforward. It is complicated in terms of the kind of options that it provides. Office 365 is not Connections. Connections still had a very focused use case and set of features. Office 365 has more. So we have to be very cautious of how we are mapping these data points. And one of the things that I would like to bring up is that in more than one case, we have observed that it is not about the technical mapping. Like I can say that a page maps to a wiki page, but that's not what it is. We had an instance where people were using lists which had tables, and lists in Office 365 which had tables, and where you click and you navigate to a target. Now this can go into a wiki page, but what we really need to understand is what are they trying to do, the underlying use case of it, and then fit to a particular feature set in the target. So it's not a one-to-one mapping based on the feature. It is based on the use case, and we can share more use cases if you like.
Okay, perfect. No, that's great answer. So let's see, we'll probably have the final question here. If I sign up for the free offer, by when could we get the checklists and the scripts?
Great. So in the following week, we will reach out to you and we'll set up a meeting time in the following week. And during this meeting, we would try to understand your environment. If we can, we would even love to see the environment and try to help you get out some of the data points. But if not, we would like to share the script, and you can then have some of the results back to us, and we can then help you analyze them.
Okay, perfect. Well, great. I'm sure after everybody thinks about this, there'll be some more questions, but we're kind of at the end of our time slot. So Chirag and Baladi, thank you very much for this webinar. And as a reminder, everybody, please contact Maarga Systems if you have any questions about this particular script or any of the other offerings they have. So back to you, Chirag and Balaji.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for hosting us here today, and we thoroughly enjoyed sharing our experiences and talking about our toolkit with the attendees today. And I do hope to talk to some of you in the future, but for today, I think we would like to say goodbye and thank you for your time with us today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone, for joining.